Hi, folks. Welcome to the Our Town September office hours. I'm Melissa Kim, Director of the Creative Placemaking Technical Assistance Program here at Our Town. I'm joined here by my colleagues, Kade Morales, Margie Waller, and 9 of our resource team members. We are really excited to have you here today, to be all together. So please take a minute to say hello in the chat. With your name, your organization, where you're zooming in from, and maybe a word or two about your project. We encourage you to use the chat throughout the session. Office hours are meant to be an open, informal space for conversations, a time to ask questions, meet fellow grantees, just listen. Our town grantees and partners are a group of exceptional people doing exceptional work. So we really want to hear from you. Now, today's office hours will be a little more structured than usual. 9 of our resource team members will share a little bit about their work and their expertise and how they might support your projects. So we're hoping that this will offer guidance as you think about which resource team members you might want to work with, and how you might, take advantage of their consultation time. So we encourage you to sign up for an initial consultation. That'll be with either me or with Margie, and we'll put in the chat the link to do that. Once we chat with you, we'll just get to know your project, get to know you, and discuss which resource team members might be a good fit. A little bit more housekeeping. We're going to be recording today's session, and we'll share it out along with the resources that are referenced throughout. So with all that, let's get started. If you could advance to the next slide, you will see these are the resource team members you'll be meeting, and we'll be starting with Flannel and Blade.
Okay. Oh, my slide looks strange. But anyway, that's Flannel and Blade. We are a communications agency with a bit of a difference. We're intergenerational. We're queer, Black, and woman-led creative collective. So we pull together a group of collective members who are drawn from all over the country, and we try to staff up our projects with people who are in the geography where the project is happening. And what we're trying to do is create a different kind of communication agency, which really understands what nonprofits, philanthropy, foundations understand by communications, and kind of be a little bit comms whispery, where we're able to help people kind of like get to the point of what they actually need to communicate, rather than just building a website or doing social media without that very deep understanding of what it is we are trying to tell people and the ways in which we want people to change their behavior. Next slide, please. So you may know me. Should have introduced myself. I'm Westlake, founder of Flannel and Blade. And you may know me from my work at Art Place America. This was the very last ever summit, which many of you were on. These are my esteemed colleagues at Art Place, and we were deep in creative placemaking with all of you and with the NEA. So I just wanted to situate where I am coming from and understanding and knowing so much of the work that gets carried on from the NEA and from creative placemaking. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to do is tell you a little bit about how we work, which is take your tangled ball of yarn, which is your story, craft it into a nice piece of flannel, which is the kind of playbook, the blueprint of everything that you want to say, and then make that piece of information into everything that you need, which might be a website, a social media strategy, or it might be content marketing. Next slide, please. And with a very short space of time allotted to us, I wanted to just tell you quickly about 2 projects that we worked on so that it can tell you the type of thing that we can help you with. So the Waymakers Collective are radical grant makers based in Appalachia, funded by Art Place. It was the last funded project that Art Place did. And we helped them create everything from scratch. So the name, the brand, the website, social media presence, PR, So we went from soup to nuts with everything that they could possibly want in talking about themselves, explaining who they are and the type of work they do. Next slide, please. And you may all be familiar with this organization, Springboard for the Arts from Minnesota. And we did a year-long retainer with them where we helped them think about many, many program areas and how they all roll up to a single narrative, which uplifts and amplifies each aspect of their forthcoming 5-year strategic plan. So we're always thinking about individual deliverables, but we're also always thinking about how that rolls up to a broader narrative to make sure that every piece of content that gets put out by an organization helps to tell the story of the organization and its aims. With that, I'm exactly at time, and I will pass over to the next.
Thanks for sharing, Westlake. I love how the work of Flannel Blade is to just really help clarify and share other folks' narrative. A question I have for you is, who is one of your favorite storytellers?
Ooh, let's see. It's probably out of our ecosystem, it's probably the recording artist Laura Marling, who writes incredible folk music, and she is an incredible crafter of stories. So you listen to the song and as a musician, she's incredible, but also the way that she tells stories of kind of folk and ancient times and new takes on kind of mythology. So that's my favorite storyteller. Thanks for that question.
Thank you for sharing. Hello, everyone out in Zoom land. Happy to be in space together. My name is Theresa Hwang. I use she, her pronouns, and I am coming in from occupied Tongva, otherwise known as Los Angeles. I know we have a lot of presentations, and so I just wanted to, and after a while, I'm sure they'll bleed into each other. So I just wanted to start with just like, let's look out at the horizon together, take a bit of a breath, let the previous presentation just soak in for a second, and then I'll be sharing some of the work that I do. So I am a community engaged architect. I am also a facilitator and an educator. I'm just going to go through briefly some of the stuff that I've done in the past. If we can go to the next slide. So in many ways, I feel like I've worn many hats. I've been the artist or the creative person on staff at a community development organization, an affordable housing and social service agency. A lot of my work is about designing activities so that the people most impacted, usually sitting at the margins, are centered and their vision leading the way. So really thinking about what is co-creation and collaboration during the creative development process. And then also thinking about creativity as a source of joy, celebration, but also very importantly, thinking about growing community capacity. So beyond just workshops, really thinking about what are the skills that we're developing collectively in our community as well. So that's some of my on the ground work. Next slide. I am also a convener and curator. And so I hold a lot of space. I've worked with a lot of different, everyone from national intermediaries like NeighborWorks to philanthropy and foundations like Kresge Foundation to really hold space for conversations. I really think of it as how do we change the way we connect with each other, and just really thinking about what is a care-filled container. And so thinking about topics that we can engage in and then put in invitations for other people to share their expertise, other times, their peer learning opportunities, and making space so that people who are community leaders, creatives, to really share the wisdom and knowledge that they also have. And sort of lastly, the thing that I do as an educator, if we go to the next slide, is I'm also an educator. So I create curriculum and content. And so an example of this is I worked with NeighborWorks and helped them develop their creative community development certificate program at some of their national training institutes. I've also been leading a program called Design Futures Forum, which is an anti-racist design education initiative that I've been working with the universities to really reimagine what community engaged design looks like through a racial justice lens. I've done workshops around trauma-informed design and really just thinking about topics that our field should be incorporating. And then also really thinking about what are ways to develop not only shared understanding and definitions for some of this work, but a place for practice. I think that's something we don't talk enough about, being able to be together, make mistakes, learn, try to implement and apply in a way that becomes a little bit more, I don't want to say universally understood, but having resonance around the way that we're trying to transform the world and implement the work is something that I also try to do. So that's me.
Thank you, Theresa. So my question for you is, what or who inspires you to do all the work that you do?
Oh, great question. I was actually just talking about Grace Lee Boggs, who passed a few years ago, but was, political philosopher, labor organizer, Asian American woman activist, whose story I learned when I was in college and radically transformed my life. So the work that Grace Lee Boggs has done in terms of just movement building has deeply influenced my work. Thank you for that beautiful question, John.
Oh, cool. That's very inspiring. I'm John Davis. I'll tell a little bit about my story. I went to art college in Minneapolis, and right after art college, I wanted to move to a rural community and found New York Mills, Minnesota. The population is about 1,000. But I think most importantly, the first 2 years I was in New York Mills, I didn't do anything. I did nothing except listen to people's hopes and dreams while I painted barns and houses just to make a living. And it wasn't until a friend of mine gave me a toy plastic tractor that everything kind of clicked into place. The tractor would be the logo for a nonprofit organization that would engage the community. And the tagline would be to cultivate the arts. Next slide. So together we created a residency program, a sculpture park, a gallery, performance, and community building space. The idea and the philosophy was to weave the arts into the fabric of the community and also change the negative stereotypes about rural communities in America. And 5 years after the Cultural Center opened, 17 new businesses relocated in New York Mills, increasing jobs 40%. And New York Mills became one of the top 100 art towns in America. Next slide. So in 2000, to a small town called Lanesboro, Minnesota. It was even having a smaller population. This vision plan was actually created with support from the NEA Our Town program. But when I moved to Lanesboro in 2000, I wanted the entire town to become an arts campus. Instead of an urban arts district, the whole rural community would be an arts campus or a canvas for the arts. Next slide. So I like to say it took 10 years for this to be a shared vision, because in 2010, the Arts Campus was activated with the capital campaign that included historic gallery renovation, transforming a city parking lot into a poetry parking lot, creating an artist residency center and theater, and artist-designed wayfinding. So during this $1 million capital campaign that finished in 2014, $2.5 million was invested just in the downtown, and 10 new businesses opened in a 2-block area on Main Street. And Lanesboro was the first small rural community in America in 2015 to proclaim itself an arts campus. So in summary, we talked about superpowers. I think some of my superpowers are helping to facilitate shared vision, narrative shift, patience, creative problem solving, and helping to create sustainable rural arts programming.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John. Thank you. John, my question for you is, where's a place in Lanesboro where you go to re-anchor yourself?
You know, Lanesboro has a river that goes through it, a root river. So when I need to recenter myself, I go trout fishing, because when I'm fishing, I don't think about anything. I'm just waiting to catch fish, and that's where my brain is. So that's my reset.
Thank you. Nice. Good. Look out, trout. A tasty fish, I think. Hi, I'm Marty. I'm Marty Pottenger. Hello, everybody. I wish I could see you as much as I could see the slides, but I know that'll happen. I am blessed to get to run something called Art at Work. I'm sharing 4 different projects to help get a sense of what is a superpower and where I've made every mistake at least twice. And if you think that's a good thing to have in your resume, then that is in my resume. This is from Homeland Security. It was a play, and the people you see in it are the then mayor of Portland, a Mi'kmaq woman, a Franco-American fiddler, union organizer, a man who at that point had no home. Well, he did. He lived in a tent in the woods. A Chicana Episcopalian minister, and Oliver, a South Sudanese former guerrilla fighter who's made his home in Portland. And so I put their names a little bit about, gotten to work with over a zillion cities, but 20 projects with cities over the last. Some are very short, some are very long, but as those of you who work with local government know, there's a real culture in each local government, and that's something that I've gotten to have a lot of experience building relationships and getting the unexpected presence of art to bloom. Next slide, please. This one's called Forest City Times. It's 2 different performances. One's called Radio Calls, which 5 police officers did with me, and Weeping City by 9 African-born high school students in Portland, Maine. What I wrote on the slide, don't be afraid to be bold in your work. You all are, by building the teams that you're building, are building a uniquely powerful team that is actually able to do many things as well as the project that you're building on. And I just wanted to introduce that idea that when things happen, both traumatic, like the shooting of a South Sudanese resident by the police, or something celebratory, feel free to incorporate that in your imaginations and bring it to your team and see if there's something you can do. We did 2 plays for the high schools. It was quite powerful. This was the final curtain call and the first time that there was a sense that something real had been built between the African-born high school students in Portland and the officers. Next slide, please. This is Meeting Place, an Our Town project with Our Town support. It was a 1-year project. We worked with 4 neighborhood associations. None of them had any kind of real diversity: economic, class, racial, national origin, age. And we had a different arts making project workshop with each of them separately for a year. And I wanted to say, you don't work with neighborhood associations and not get some skills on conflict resolution and building relationships across differences. And so that was a big part of it. And I got to see, this is the middle slide is a Somali poetry reading at one of the mosques here. And it was thrilling, and you can kind of deduce what I learned and maybe some of the things I could help some of you with as a result of it. Next and last slide. I thought it's always good to kind of talk about anything that ends up being successful and moves things forward in terms of racism. Our Public Works Department had 1,400 workers, had a noticeable increase in racial discrimination lawsuits, but the racism was always there. And it affects everyone's, yeah, that's Rocco. Everyone has safety issues on the construction work. I was in construction work for years, and so that's important. But also I have a lot of experience around big cities, little cities, working with unions and labor communities. First, you like them. You can't kind of make progress unless you can tell you like people, and you can't really get there until you respect them. So those are kind of my bywords, and to learn and to listen. A perspective for this project was to actually weaken white identity and strengthen actual ethnic reality, ethnic heritage, identity. So working with Daniel Minter, who you see, African-American artist here, internationally known, but lives in Portland. And they I have some skills about design matching. What's the issue? What do you want to impact, and what kind of arts project might be a good fit? So with the union, it was making these prints you see on the coffee cups. So we had story circles where people got to reclaim their ethnic heritage, which was unusual for almost all of them, and then make like a rubber stamps and have a dictionary. And then I just wanted to give a pitch to what it is to do multi-tiered designing your projects to have multi-tier impact. And so this had like 7 different impacts. The one of them was to have these fellas' art in the city hall where people saw them, and the sense of pride from that, and then have an open panel during the opening, which was standing room only, and it was incredible. And their bosses got to hear the workers talk about what a difference it made, and how hard it is to hear the people disregarding the labor that they do. So, how do you make your project sticky? Good.
So I'm next. Oops. Hi. So Marty, I have a question for you. I'm kind of curious about why you were nervous at all, because I was just so completely inspired by everything that you talked about that you're doing. And I would like to mentor with you if I could.
Oh yeah, that'd be lovely. I'd love that. Are you kidding? I think I'm permanently nervous. And so it's just one way of remembering that I'm alive. I'm certainly not numb. I haven't
Yeah, well, you're beautiful.
haven't done numb yet.
So I'm Julie Garreau, and I'm with the Cheyenne River Youth Project. And so I said I'm good at a lot of things. I would not say that I'm good at slideshows and PowerPoints, etc. So I took what we do and just made it kind of really beautiful. But so I represent the Cheyenne River Youth Project, and we do a lot. A big part of what we do, though, is the arts. And we have about a 35-year history. One of the things that we have done is we've created something called the Waniatuwawapi Lakota Arts and Culture Institute, which really we've always been engaged in the arts with our kids, after school programming, arts and crafts, that kind of thing. About 2013, we really started to push our arts program forward. We just needed to evolve it. We had a small art studio that we had outgrown. So we just really started working with graffiti writers, graffiti artists. We thought it was a good idea to captivate the imagination of our young Lakota youth. So we started bringing our graffiti writers into the community, putting up community murals. And from that, like, everything just kind of took on a life of its own. So I think that, what we do is we're youth development. We're definitely arts and culture. We are also, healing our kids, healing our nations. We're doing a lot of things, I think, through our arts programming and everything else that we do. But one of the things that we created was the Red Can Graffiti Jam, which we launched back in, I think it was 2015 already. And it was going to be this one-off sort of event. And we painted some murals in the community. We opened an art park, interestingly enough. So it's a festival that we have every year. It's about 4 days where our artists come in from all over the world, really, and they will paint in the community, culturally relevant murals. They will also go into our art park and paint there. But what's really been great about it is that the very first year that I think we had the graffiti jam, and the kids are involved in all of this, of course, but people in the community were a little weirded out by it. They thought it was like we were going to teach our kids to vandalize and do those sorts of things. And now we have businesses and everybody calling us, they want murals. So what you're seeing in front of you is the Mitakio Yasin and the Lakota mural. There were these large abandoned, they were old nursing apartments, which we asked if we can turn them into just one big piece of artwork. So these are gargantuan murals that you will see just in the center of town. The kids and the artists work together to create them. The Lakota mural, I think, was just this past year. Mitakio Yasin was, I think, 21. And then just recently, Morro Grande Electric asked if we would paint their building. So the one you see on the bottom it was painted by some artists this year. But I think it's become this really big community project, which I really, really love. You can go to the next slide. So this is, I don't know if you can you guys all see that? So inside the art park, we have our local artists, we have artists who come from wherever, but that's one of the murals that they created, the Res Kids. We have the festival, we have a lot of kid engagement. In fact, it's all about youth development. We just kind of do it in really creative ways. So we have skateboard painting, they play all for 4 days, but every one of them gets to engage an artist in some manner, even the little guys. They have chalk spray paint, so they're very involved. The city of Eagle Butte was an interesting relationship to build, because I think they were a little nervous about it. And so we got them to agree to let us to do a mural. It was interesting because at one point it was like, well, we don't really want any of that Indian stuff. I'm like, okay, well, so we have it, but we got that, and within there you'll see some kind of native representation. But again, you know, it's a relationship that we're building, and it's going better, I would say. So the next mural, please. And then this is also honoring our mothers. Was painted by 5 of the Indigenous artists. They just wanted to honor the women from their nations, so they all combined and came together and painted that mural. And the lower right is the Waniatu Wawapi Arts and Culture Institute. We were very blessed. It'll be opening in July of 2024. We're still doing a little bit of fundraising, but we got a great boost from Jack Dorsey of Twitter and Square, and he donated $2.5 million. So that was a great launch for us. But the Institute is all about putting everything that we've created kind of under one roof. And it will also begin working with young adults, but it's really, really come a long way. And I think it's really driven by by the young people, and listening to them and paying attention to what direction they want to take. But it's been kind of an incredible journey for us, and to some degree kind of surprising. It was Margie Waller who convinced me that I'm a creative placemaker. I was like, oh, well, we just build buildings and campuses and such. But yeah, it feels good to be able to say that, because I think we really are. I think what we're really trying to do is just give our kids some options and opportunities. They've got a lot of challenges. Our community has a lot of them, but you know, art has become this really important piece, and it continues to grow within the community. And murals, you know, people want murals on their homes, on their garage doors, they want it everywhere. So I think it really is. We've definitely learned that our Lakota people like to see their language up on these walls, and it's just been this really incredible journey. I don't know how much time I have. Am I done? No. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
Hey, Julie, this is Karen. This is Karen in Brooklyn, New York. And I wanted to ask you, what's something, and it's been great to hear about your work. What's something that you've learned from one of the young people?
Of the young people, you know, I think the greatest thing, and it's always really been there, but how much their lives play out in the art that they create. You know, for example, I know that, and the healing that comes from the art that we're doing and what we're creating. I think that's been, like, I think I knew that, but I think from what I've seen over the years, just how much it heals. So for example, we had a little girl who, her grandmother had died. So when she came back to the youth center, she was drawing a lot about like the funeral and the casket and who was there. And so it really is, it just has resonated with me how much and how important it is.
Thank you. So, hi everybody, I'm Karen Atlas. I'm with Naturally Occurring Cultural Districts New York, and OCDNY for short. I use she, her pronouns. And we convene a citywide network to strengthen community-based cultural work and activism and make connections across communities and sectors. And really important thing for us is that our work is rooted in values and place. And we say naturally occurring because we work from an asset-based perspective, recognizing the powerful culture that already exists in communities. And I would say our superpower, one of them, is that we work collaboratively. And I'd like to ask our collaborative to introduce themselves. Let's start with Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily An. I use she, her, they, them pronouns. Pass it off to Tom.
I'm Tom Azo, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm just happy to be here and part of the cohort.
Hi, Atoy Ramos Ramin. I'm an artist, he, him pronouns, and I'll talk in a bit.
So some of the ways that we can help is that we bring to the table our on-the-ground experience, including as an Our Town grantee. We worked with the Queensbridge houses in public housing community. We've experienced the joys and the challenges of this work. And as a sounding board, we can listen to you when things get hard. And we know that they often do. And help you sustain your vision, problem solve, and pivot based on what you learn along the way. We can always also celebrate the joys with you. We can get into the nitty gritty as well. We can share run of shows, MOUs, selection processes, community engagement, and other resources. And we can share our experiences and a Atway ticket.
Thank you. We can go to the next slide. So I'm Atway Ramos Fermin. I use he, him pronouns, and just continuing with what things can we do, what things we've been involved with. So we can also share our experiences of working in partnerships, strengthening existing work and building trust, how we've worked to contribute to bigger picture, not just to deliver on a project, or connect the grassroots wisdom with policy making. Get the next slide. And some examples, of the work we've done. So neighborhood planning through the cultural blueprint and being a partner on the New York City's cultural plan. Next slide. We've done cross-sector partnership with public housing communities, Department of Health, thematic peer learning exchanges where we bring folks to talk to each other about topics, ranging from climate change to mutual aid to new organizational models. From power mapping and culture organizing workshops, and artist in residence programs, including a design studio, which I'm leading right now at the Point Community Development Corporation in the Bronx. And, we also have other experiences of our team members, which include creating artist cohorts, community cultural councils, convenings, urban planning, public space programs, rural organizing, participatory budgeting, teaching, facilitating, all kinds of things. So we're right here excited to be in community with all of you. And I think that's it, just keeping it short.
Great, well, thank you guys so much. I'm curious if there's an unexpected partnership that you thought might have been hard, but ended up being super fruitful and inspiring or exciting.
Sounds like all of them. I think that given that, folks come from different parts of the city and being able to get folks in the same room sometimes it's challenging, and being able, but the thing is that the beauty of that also is that everyone brings their own perspectives, and having the space for people to build with each other, it's really amazing. So yeah, there's many other examples, but that's a really quick one.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Allan. I'm coming to you from the city of Covington, Kentucky. I'm in a new role here as in our economic development department. But prior to this, for the last 20 years, I've worked in community development corporations as doing economic development, but really at the intersection of arts and community. So my background, and I will say this, it's kind of weird that I'm in local government now, but I've always thought local government has such an ability, or it could be really impactful and be a force for good. It doesn't always happen, but I think when it does, it's super exciting and can really leverage a lot of resources. So where I come in, and when I was asked to take this position back in March, the reason I wanted to be here in Covington, right across the river from Cincinnati, was that I had already worked with the government and knew how open they were to progressive values, to kind of thinking outside of the box. And so I decided to take the leap and move and actually be in local government. And I'm really enjoying it. There's challenges, but ways that I could be helpful to you. I've from the nonprofit standpoint, I've raised a lot of dollars, federal dollars, and I know how to leverage funds. Really good with a spreadsheet. So if you have projects that are tricky and you want to get unstuck, I can often help you kind of think those things through. And from the government side now, I'm learning, my new thing that I've been saying, and fortunately everyone else here is kind of saying it too, is like, how do we get to yes? So like as a government, and so that's, we're slowly getting there and changing the way we do processes. So, so there's a couple things there that you can look at as far as kind of superpowers, but next slide, please. This is something we just rolled out. So I just want to kind of show an example of, we just kind of had to do a brand for our economic development department. That's one of the first things we worked on. And this, I'm not going to read the manifesto because I'll run out of time, but this kind of just shows you where our values are and a way that a city government, like we worked in this picture with a wig artist, and we rolled it out. She came dressed as a table. We had, she made this whole outfit, and we were really able to support a local artist, and our city government paid for that. Our finance had a little pushback at first, but then they got on board. And so that was an exciting recent creative way that we've been able to kind of pay our local artists. Next slide, please. And then this is just in this year. And I have to say, I didn't actually take this job because I didn't know what kind of public art funding there would be, but I love working with small businesses, and so many of our businesses are artists. However, since I've been here, I just got put in charge. I didn't realize this is $400,000 in the American Relief public art funds to be used for public art. So I'm able to get resident voices at the table, and they're helping us decide where these funds are going to be distributed. Oh my God, it was a duck, my timer, but, and so these are just some of the other things that we're doing, but we've just started a historic electric sign grant with our neon artists. We have a street art park that is one of our public parks with the local curators. So excited to see the other art park. And then we actually just hired a local photographer who's documenting all our neighborhoods. So those are just some of the different ways that our government is kind of working with our artists.
Wow.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you. I love your organization, by the way. And I love the fact that you're connecting artists within the government, because we work with a lot of artists in our work. And so I think this is really important work. And I love that you're doing participatory funding. That's fantastic. The question, what do you think is the biggest impediment to have artists integrated into these government structures?
Great question. So we're actually dealing with that right now. So with the ARPA funding, they technically have to go through our portal, our bonfire portal, to kind of respond to our RFP. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to cut those barriers down. So what we're going to do is put an RFP out for a public art management entity who will then be able to curate and actually get those artists to apply through them. So that barrier will be, hopefully it'll be easier, and they won't be going through all the government red tape. It'll just be this one entity that has to deal with the red tape, and hopefully we'll be able to select. We have a lot of great entities in this region that I'm hoping will apply, that we can then help them kind of work with the artists. They'll know all the kind of federal regs that they need to do. Because what we don't want to have happen is our artists to get super discouraged and be like, forget it, I don't want to do this. And so we'll see how it goes. We're going to try it, but that's one way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. So I would like to introduce our firm, Tawaw Architecture Collective. We're an architecture firm, and we specialize in Indigenous architecture. I'm the founder and director of also another organization which is situated within Arizona State University, and it's called the Indigenous Design Collective. So we work 100% with all of the nations and tribe, all the way up into Canada, Hawaii, Australia. We are moving all around the map. You see our mission and vision on the screen there. And I think what's the most important is that the reason we do this work is because there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's outdated, it's speculative, it's not authentic, and it does not connect to our nations. And this happens in all the realms of design and artwork, from fashion to architecture. And so our mission is really to make it more authentic. And to do so, we really believe it's important to prioritize lived experience. We have the most Indigenous designers in any firm in North America. We think this is important because lived experience does matter. I am very hopeful, though. We have, I've been in this field for about 25, 30 years. And while I thought we were on the fringes of architecture, I see that we're becoming more mainstream, and this work is becoming more accepted into sort of mainstream architecture. What we've done is we've actually created a series of resources because this field is so large. Can I go to the next slide, please? Thank you. What we've done is created an Indigenous learning guide, a PDF document that is available to all the grantees, as well as an introductory video of our firm and our process. I'll share with you a few images of our work. We work in all scales from installation to buildings, as you can see on screen. And what we're aiming to do is integrate not only worldview, but that identity and the function of every project. Next slide. Our process, which is outlined in the guide, you will see on screen, most designers start at the black circle there, the co-design portion. We like to do a lot of prep work to get there. So feel free to look through the guide and bring questions in any of those fields, including place-based research and community-led teaching. Next slide. And finally, one of the aspects that is critical to our work is community-led teaching, where the community teaches us what is important. And so a lot of people come to us for these, our toolbox around community engagement. So we welcome all of your inquiries. And I wanted to introduce also Tiara at this time.
Hi everyone, it's very nice to meet you. My name is Tiara Miller. I work with Hwang at Tawaw Collective and previously with the Indigenous Design Collaborative at UNCU. And we look forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. This is Tasha Golden, and you all do so much work to create spaces that can help humans thrive and be well. What kinds of spaces do you feel best in? What kinds of spaces do you go to or create for yourself to feel well?
Well, I think we talk about the common denominator that seems to be connecting almost every nation, and we worked with about, 50 or 60 nations so far, is nature. The connection with nature. So I think the field of biophilia offers a lot of synergy with the work that we do. Thank you, Tasha.
Beautiful. Thank you all. Well, it's really lovely to be here, you all. Hello, my name is Tasha Golden, and I put this slide first because I bring to this work a few key parts of my identity that inform everything that I'm doing right now. So I thought I would start there as a kind of part of my story, which is that my first career was as a touring singer-songwriter. I did that for several years, touring full-time. And the questions that work raised for me around what the music was doing for me and my own mental health, what it was doing for people who stayed after shows and told me all kinds of stories about difficult experiences in their own lives, that work left me with lots of questions that I wanted to pursue. I also founded a nonprofit program called Project Uncaged. It's a creative writing program for girls that are incarcerated in the US juvenile justice system. And some of the same questions came up there, like why is it that people share different things via their art than they do in conversation, or certainly like on questionnaires as they get administered. And eventually I'm such a nerd, and those questions kept haunting me to the point that I wound up back in academia with a PhD in public health, specializing in how the arts affects public health. And of course, thinking of health is not just an individual thing, but something that's very contextualized. So everything winds up being part of health. So whether you're working in the arts sector or the health sector, healthcare, but also education, transportation, public safety, criminal justice, all these things come together as part of our health. And so how does the arts affect all of that, which is why I wound up doing some work with creative placemaking and with Art Place America, and how I wound up here with you all. I spend, you can go to the next slide. I spend a big part of my time now as the director of research for the International Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins Medicine, where we, kind of lead a lot of research related to the impacts of the arts on our health and well-being. And some of those things that we've done recently are here on the screen. We're looking at how setting and environments affects psychedelic therapy, how music has been used to help treat serious mental illness, how arts-based programs like a lot of the work you all do can help support youth mental health, how art, music, and aesthetics can support healthcare workers, and then just finished a project about that looked at arts on prescription and healthcare. I look at art as a form of data. What are communities telling us through their art, so that we don't keep going back into communities and asking them questions that they may be already answering, via their art, but we're just not paying attention. And community arts organizations as key players in community health, even though we are not often, as arts organizations, are not often thought of as part of the community health network. We absolutely are and should be. So these are some things that we are investigating. And then the next slide, because of my identities as, oh, are there animations? Oh my goodness, I didn't even know. I thought they were just all gonna appear. Well, that's fine, whatever, we can do it. Because of my identities as a singer-songwriter, entrepreneurship, music, and then combining that with founding a nonprofit program, and how do you fund that? How do you promote that? And then working in research, and how do you research and evaluate arts-based programs? I now work a lot with clients one-on-one and otherwise to answer 4 key questions. So questions that you all might be asking, like, how does my work affect health and well-being? How would I frame it that way? How would I talk about it that way? And how can that maybe help me get some funding and grow and sustain my work over time? Questions like, who could I be partnering with in my community that I maybe haven't thought of based on the fact that I might be contributing to health and well-being? What could a partnership look like? Also, people in my community are going through a lot. This is a huge thing the last few years, y'all. Like, how do I respond to them in a trauma-informed way? What does trauma-informed practice even look like for artists and arts organizations? How can we use our art specifically to help support that? And then, how do I communicate the value of what I do? Do I have to do a research evaluation kind of process? What would it even look like? Am I going to hate it? These are some things that I work with people on. And yes, it is totally possible to do an evaluation process that you won't hate. And on the last slide, I can share some links to some work that we've done, including that report on how art is being used on prescription, maybe some things about art as data. There's a free ebook that you can get that just shows you like an overview of how the arts can affect health. You can also find me and connect with me. Happy to connect with you all down the line. And that is it for me.
Thanks so much, Tasha, and it's nice to see you.
Hey.
I think it's up to me as the first goer to ask you a question. And
Cool.
It's a big question, so I hope you can kind of like come up with a quick response. But what in your view, what do you think is the if you had to name one thing that people who are working in public health could use artists for to help people get their arms around, is there one thing that stands out to you that artists can bring to the field of public health?
The answer is no, there is not one thing, but here is why. Because I don't think about art as something that's unique and separate, which is like on that last slide. I always say that art is part of how we human. It's not special. It's not, unique. It's not supernatural. And so if you are trying to do human-centered work, if you're trying to do patient-centered work, if you're trying to make your healthcare facility more trustworthy to patients, if you're trying to create therapeutic practices that are going to appeal to lots of different people across cultures, if you're excluding the arts, that's not a scientific exclusion. That's not based on anything in science to exclude that. We evolved to make art, and so if you are excluding that, then that's then you are taking away something that could be a great tool for people. So a lot of times it's not about making people include something, it's about getting them to stop excluding it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, resource team members. It was wonderful to hear from you. And we actually have some time left over for questions. So I wanted to spend a few minutes just with an open floor. If folks had questions they wanted to ask, feel free to just to put it in the chat or to unmute yourself and just to say hey. Well, that's okay if you're all feeling shy right now, because you can ask questions in your one-on-one consults. And to do that, all you need to do is sign up using the link in the chat. And you can sign up anytime at any point in your project, whether you're just starting out, whether you're moving along, just have like an issue you want to brainstorm or feeling stuck on. That's what the consultations are for. And this is half of our resource team. The other half is also available and just ready to consult with you. So the last thing I'll do is just to mention that, you know, this is just one of many offerings that we have lined up for you for the fall. We also have a peer exchange coming up in October on partnerships, and that's going to be run by our resource team member, Michael Pride, having a peer exchange with Riff Raff Arts Collective and Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council, two of our current Our Town grantees. We'll also have another office hours in October, on October 12th. And that'll be a much less structured, much more free-form kind of time. And the NEA will be hosting their webinar called Managing Your NEA Award and Intro to the Technical Assistance Program. The title is dry, but the content is going to be awesome. It's going to tell you what you need to know in order to manage the administrative side of your grant and how certain federal regulations, like which escape me right now, but related to in the NEPA, which I can't remember what it stands for. But the point is, it's good information, and and you'll also get a fuller introduction to the full range of tools that the Technical Assistance Program offers. So, the date of the Managing NEA Award webinar is Tuesday, October 19th, and everyone should have received a newsletter yesterday, and if you didn't receive it, check your spam. And if you still don't have it, just email me and I will shoot you a copy. And that has our entire fall lineup and links to register for events. So, any other questions? It looks like we have no more questions.
Melissa, can I just put in a plug for the upcoming
Yes.
peer exchange? That session, the two groups facilitated by Michael Pride, who's another resource team member, they'll be talking about partnerships. So something that came up several times in your presentations today was sometimes the challenge, especially local government nonprofits working together. So they have a lot to share about their experience with partnerships. And one of the things that we have learned about creative placemaking is that if you're looking to build that kind of non-exclusion that Tasha was talking about, so you really want to make sure that art and artists are one of the ways we build community, that we are in community, that we human. Then showing people through this work, through doing the work, leads to that kind of systems change where decision makers at all levels, public and private, begin to see once they see it happening, then they're like, oh yeah, I want some of that. And we've learned that strong partnerships are a key to getting that result. It's a really good early indicator that it will be successful. So that's what that October 5th peer exchange is all about. And as we said, you should have gotten the email with a link, and if you didn't notice it, you'll be getting another one. Don't worry. Oh, thanks.
Thank you. All right. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And please don't hesitate to reach out using the consult form if you have any questions or if you want to be paired with a resource team member. Have a good afternoon, everyone.